So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about it.
Yeah.
Because it's a very scary subject for a lot of people.
Oh,
I think one of the uh, I'll tell you a quick story. So you know how it's relevant. But I was at camp a couple of years ago, and I have every fall I have what's called the elite throwing camp. It's a throwing camp. All we're doing is improving footwork, improving mechanics, talking about arm care, talking about recovery, talking about arm strength. It's just the entire day is about mechanics or throwing. And I had a player probably 3 years ago. He showed up and he was in the thick of it. He was in the middle of the yips. He couldn't get through any of the drills. He couldn't hit his partner in the chest, and he's throwing it, literally hitting the ceiling, hitting
yeah.
halfway. And I felt helpless as a coach. Now I'm at a camp, and my camps are small, and I get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with guys. But this was not something that I could fix in a 12-hour day. This was something that it needed to be addressed by a professional. It needs to be followed up on. And so from my perspective, it was like, holy crap, what do I do? So it's real and it's scary. And I know that
Oh yeah.
guys who are going through it, have a difficult time. So I think just to start, I know I've kind of got my definition of the yips. I'm sure most people watching or listening have theirs as well. But I'd love to kind of go ahead and hear your definition first so that we can kind of all get on the same page and then kind of move forward from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's interesting. To me, I don't look at the yips as like a neurological condition or uh, a constraining definition. I look at it as a behavioral expression. Okay, it's a symptom. It's just the way I describe something. So that's an important delineation, because I've had somebody call and say, would you agree that they have the yips or not? I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. The yips to me are when we lose the natural freedom of what we used to do, and now the fix that we're trying to create is causing worse problems. So let me describe what happens. So I look at the yips like panic attacks as a clinician, because they're almost identical. Let me explain. So you and I are throwing a throw back from the catcher to the pitcher, a pitcher to first base, a second baseman to first base. Those are where the yips happen in baseball. Okay. Why? They're the easiest throws in the game. Now, we take them for granted. So for a long time, you can throw back to me and have a small mechanical flaw. That's fine. You overcome it. You hit me in the chest. No big deal. All of a sudden, it's not good anymore. You overthrow me, you make a mistake, and all of a sudden, there's a sense of embarrassment that comes in, and frustration and anger, usually embarrassment. And now what happens is you start trying to correct it and protect it. Let me not do it again, and let me try to, turn my shoulders, extend, flip my wrist, and you start doing all these fixes, right? And the fix causes more frustration. And just like me throwing mechanically, I become so focused on the mechanics that I lose the chain of events that create it. Now, what happens in a panic attack, and let me explain this. So I'm going to use a male as an example, because this is usually the beautiful example. 48-year-old male like me, sitting in their office, drinks 4 cups of coffee in the morning, is running around like crazy, sitting in the office at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I got chest pain. And feels a little stressed and feels like, tingling in the arm, may actually vomit, gets, sweats, headache, heart racing, all this other stuff. They go to the emergency room, call the ambulance comes and takes them, take them to the emergency room. The emergency room physician comes out and goes, well, you didn't have a heart attack. It's just stress. It's just stress, which is a very dismissive statement, right? Like, it's the littlest thing. You should be able to overcome it. And now that guy has to go back and tell everybody it was just stress. I mean, I just brought everybody in here. All right. So what happens is, so that dude goes back to work, and I was like, are you okay? I mean, heart attack? No, they said it was just stress, but it felt like a heart attack. Well, now, not only do they have embarrassment, they have fear of it returning. And the system had a false alarm that acted just like a true alarm. The alarm system went off, but it was coming. What that alarm system is trying to tell the body is, we got a major issue. And now that cycle continues. Well, there's 2 factors that create it lasting. Those 2 factors are this. Number 1 is that there's embarrassment, that there's this loss of control and fear of embarrassment. You're in a public place. You don't want people to be aware of it. And then the second part is avoidance. All you want to do is get out of it and avoid it. And you start fearing it coming back. Okay, now let's go back to throwing for a minute. Every